So should we bring in the closer? And
I think it'd be a good time for that.
All right.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Free Baseball Podcast presented by the Athletes Hub. It's episode 90, the number 9 and then 0 in the year of our Lord 2024. As always, I'm joined by Jake Crumpler, mustachioed baseball aficionado. I'm running out of superlatives for that dude over there with the glasses. How's it going, Jake?
I don't know, I'm sort of disappointed that we'll never have another episode 69.
Yeah, we will. We'll get to 169, and we'll keep adding from there.
Or can we count multiples of 69 so we can do it earlier? Like episode 138, we can be like, this is 69 times 2.
Double 69. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's more than fair.
All right. Well, that's good. At least we're closing in on 100, which is less funny and more fun.
That's true. Less fun, more funny is how terrible the Fanatics jerseys are. I don't know if you've seen those. I'm trying my best this segue game. Which also is a great segue because Fanatics are trying their best at making the shitty jersey game, because the Fanatics jerseys, since they've leased the Nike logo, I guess it's just completely Fanatics. They're awful. I don't know if you have watched them or seen them. For me, the interview, did you see the interview with Cal Raleigh?
Yes, that was what made me realize that it's much worse than we initially thought.
So if you are unfamiliar, the Fanatics are making the jerseys this year for Major League Baseball. Last year, they're made by Nike. They do still have the Nike swoosh on them, but they're leasing the logo, is what I understand. Fanatics are making them. They look cheap. They look legitimately like cheap as hell, like you would find them on Wish. The Cal Raleigh interview that we're talking about is, they also found it in the Ohtani pictures. The pants, they said, are supposed to be more breathable. They're literally see-through. You can see Cal Raleigh's jersey tucked in his pants. It's like literally translucent. Like they gave him nylon pants. Like that's ridiculous.
It's wild. Yeah, it's crazy. Really like when they first revealed the jerseys, everyone was complaining about the slight changes that they made visually, which was like moving the MLB logo on the neck a little further down, making the letters a little smaller. That was like something that I was fine with, but then it started to reveal itself that the production of them was very cheap. Not only were the names on the back of the jerseys not really spaced correctly, they just looked super weird. If you had 4 letters in your name, it looked super wonky. But then we started to realize that they were pressing the names and numbers and team names on the jerseys rather than stitching them in, like we've seen for decades, which is what made baseball jerseys so high quality. And so that was terrible. And then just to one up everything, they've got these pants that are just completely see-through. You can just see the whole jersey down there. I don't even like you. I don't know if you saw that picture of like Shane Bieber too from the back where you can see the red.
I haven't seen that. I'm going to look that up.
You can see the red. You can see the pockets and everything. It all looks so bad and cheap. And that's one thing just for like a visual product like that. But then for the fans that are going to buy these jerseys, the price point is still the same. It's not like these cheaper jerseys are cheaper for people. I think
they were actually, I'm pretty sure they were actually more. I wanted to say I saw something
that's crazy.
They were $10 more. So
and that's
not
crazy
even like
because these are these are so much worse. The caliber and the quality is so much worse, so much lower that it's absolutely terrible. We've already seen them massacre basketball jerseys a lot, but they're doing baseball jerseys real dirty. And I feel like this is going to be something that's going to occur the whole season where people are complaining about it. But it's so wild how unanimous the opinion is that these are terrible, not just from fans, but from players and coaches, and everybody is complaining about it. Maybe once players are playing, they'll be like, hey, these are better performance clothing than the pajamas we were wearing before. But either way, they look so bad, and it makes it feel so low quality to watch a product like that, especially coming from companies that have billions of dollars and really don't need to be lowering the quality like that. But it's crazy. I also sent you that picture. That another change that they've made is the names curve more. So a guy with a really long, like 15 letter last name or like a hyphenated last name, it literally creates a full arch. It's like we are so close to having a full circle of a name around the number on the back of a jersey, but it's absolutely wild, and it's like there's nothing we can do about it. So it's pretty awful start to spring training.
Yeah, you sent me the picture and it was Logan Bursick Harrington, and it literally almost makes like a full circle around like the number, which is crazy. Like the Fanatics jerseys being this bad is like really garbage for the game, and it sucks too because it's such a bad look for Fanatics because nobody ever really thought really highly of them in the first place. I don't think after the last few years, and then it's like, oh yeah, the fans hate how the jerseys look, and then it was like right after that, it's like the players are complaining about it because the jerseys, I don't remember who it was, but they said they literally used the word cheap. Like that's bad. Like that's a really, really rough.
And they can't customize them either, where it's like guys with big booties.
Either. Right. That I was going to talk about that next. Is like the pants, the level of customization that they used to have. Like apparently they don't have it. It's like one size fits all. It's like that sucks. Like I don't even know why that would be a conscious choice. They're $10 more to buy also, and they look like ass. Like they look like capital A ass. I don't know why you would buy them.
And I feel like the MLBPA or just like players in general would be fine, like contributing money for higher quality, like we've seen in the past. But yeah, I mean, for me, it started with the lack of stitching and stuff. You can really see it on patches, on teams' uniforms and stuff. I think the biggest example was like the Mariners logo on the sleeve was pasted on there.
Pretty rough.
And the stitching, it always looks so good. And I'm so glad the jerseys that I currently have are nice jerseys, but it's crazy that these jerseys are getting worse for everyone. And it's a really sour note to start spring training on. But on that note, spring training starts tomorrow. Are you going to watch the game? I think there's one game.
I'm going to try to, depending on the time, obviously, because I have school. Still back on the Fanatics thing. The stitching thing is so evident. I literally saw, I'm sure you've seen the same thing. It was Michael Kopech, and it's the side-by-side of his jersey last year and this one. And it literally looks like they gave him a t-shirt, like one of the jerseys.
Yeah, they look like jerseys.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing for it. Like, that's rough. But spring training hopefully will quell our Fanatics-related jersey fears by giving us baseball again, because that's what we're all clamoring for. Are you going to watch the game?
It's at 12 o'clock. I am or Pacific time. I am at work during that time, and it's the Dodgers are playing. So
that's at 3 here.
Maybe I'll put it on my phone or something.
The Cubs are going to play on Friday. I'll watch that one.
Friday I'll be watching for sure. There's a lot of games.
I'm not
on
watching
Friday.
Dodgers Padres. That's not gonna happen. I'll watch White Sox Cubs. So that will 100% happen. 3 o'clock is a bit of a stretch for me, but yeah, it's exciting to have baseball back. At least it gives us some more stuff to talk about. Because right now we're sort of relegated to talking about offseason transactions for a very slow moving offseason. But we have a few to talk about, starting with the Marlins making another trade. They made a bunch of moves this offseason, like sort of minor stuff, but this one I think is a bit of a different one, and it's them trading Nick Gordon to the Twins in exchange for Steven Okert. So you tell me about this because you're a reliever guy for Pitcher List. So I want to hear your thoughts on this trade really quick.
That's right. I guess we can start with Nick Gordon real quick. He is related to D. Gordon. I don't think he's his straight up brother. I think he's like a half or a step brother. Yeah, but he is fast. He can play a lot of positions, and he's shown in previous seasons that he can be pretty solid. 2022, we saw 111 WRC plus with 9 homers and 6 steals. He's going to be more of a utility guy for the Marlins, but they gave up a reliever that they could afford to part with because they have such a good bullpen, and one especially that's loaded with left-handers, which is exactly what Steven Okert is. But I think Steven Okert's pretty underrated. He's relatively old for reliever. He's going to be 32 this next season, but the past 2 years have been very, very kind to him. He had a sub-3 ERA in 2022, but in 2023, the ERA rose to over 4.4. But he's got big strikeout numbers, 28 and a half in 2022, 29 and a half in 2023. So big strikeout arm from the left side, and I think he adds a different and much needed look to that Twins bullpen that was they were planning to just go with Caleb Thielbar as their only lefty, and now with Okert there, I feel a lot more confident in that bullpen. So that's pretty exciting for them. I remember when Steven Okert debuted for the Giants, and for some reason, I didn't have a favorite baseball player. I've never really had one. It used to be Albert Pujols when he was on the Cardinals, but that was mostly just because he was like the best player. And then as I grew older, I was like, I don't have a favorite player. So when Steven Okert debuted, I was like, I'm going to make him my favorite player. And I don't know why I chose him. That was just the first guy that I saw debut after deciding that. And he was not the guy to choose for that. He was solid in 14 innings in his debut campaign. But after that, it was pretty downhill. He didn't pitch a lot for the Giants, but it's been cool to see him pitch really well for the Marlins, and now goes to a situation in the Twins where I think he should see more high leverage opportunities because that bullpen isn't super deep considering that the guys ahead of him. Yeah, the back end's not great. The back end is solid in terms of it's so confusing, the back end and front end with bullpens and stuff. But yeah, it's like Duran and Jax are clearly ahead of him. Brock Stewart was really good last year, and Thielbar is old but has proven to be pretty good. And then I think it's him. So he's got the opportunity to move up into a setup role. And while this is not going to have any impact on any fantasy leagues except for maybe ours or Holds leagues, I think Steven Okert is a pretty good get for the Twins.
Definitely. I said the trade backwards. I said that hold on. Yeah. I said incorrectly that the Marlins were trading Nick Gordon. It's the other way around. The Marlins are trading for Nick Gordon. So yeah, that's the only other thing.
That's actually my fault.
It's okay. I should have saw it. I was like, I saw it and I got to halfway through it and I'm like, that doesn't sound right, but I just kind of went with it. It is what it is. But yeah, it's a trade. I feel like the Marlins bullpen can sort of spare a piece like this, and then Nick Gordon, most likely going to be, he's like a utility guy, likely going to be thrown in the outfield. That's where he mostly plays. I feel like there's a chance that this move could be one for depth, or two to potentially try to get Jazz some different opportunities to play, because he's been a little injury prone the last year or so.
A little.
I drafted him with like a flyer and then he died. He played like 17 games or something stupid. That's extremely hyperbolic, but he didn't play last year very much. So being able to get him healthy and not have as many reps on his body, I think that's a solid move. Nick Gordon's not really anything special at this point. He's like a 30-year-old utility guy. You're going to get what you get with him. Yeah, solid. Just like this next move for one of my favorite extremely weird baseball players, and it's Yasmani Grandal signing with the Pittsburgh Pirates for a 1 year, $2.5 million deal. It has a bunch of incentives in there. Yasmani Grandal, he's such a weirdly productive player still. Not so much last year, but he has been before.
Or the year before.
Well, he was not bad the year before.
He was negative 0.4 WAR. It was the worst season of his career. You're lying.
Bro,
he's
fine.
Cooked. Bro's cooked.
He's fine. He plays for the Pirates. Everyone that plays for the Pirates is cooked. He'll be all right.
2 years ago
he posted like a 420 on base percentage. He's gonna somehow do that with Pirates.
That year was so weird, and ever since that, it's like
he was hitting like 170 until like the last like 2 months of the season.
Yeah, it was a very, very weird year, that 2021, and ever since then he's not been able to do much. 2022 he was injured a lot, so that can explain that a little bit. But last year, like, his defense fell off, his offense did not recover, and now he's going to be 35 this year, going to a situation on the Pirates where they have enough catching depth that they don't really need to hold on to him. I really don't know why they signed him when they have both Henry Davis and Endy Rodriguez. And this right now roster resource,
Like, I feel like it's likely a mentor role specifically for those guys.
Yeah, because he's
Henry Davis is still extremely Henry Davis. Well, he's a pretty solid defender. Henry Davis Still extremely young. Same with Indy. I mean, like you have 2 prospects there. The big thing that you can't have happen is he cannot. I talked about it last year with Eric Hosmer. It's like if this guy is ass, he needs to not be on your baseball team. Like
Yeah.
you
You do
can't
not
be
want him
using.
taking playing time away.
Yeah, you can't have him take playing time away from your young players, especially if you're in a situation like the Pirates where like you have to keep these guys too. Like you cannot waste any of this time with them.
But that's what roster resource is suggesting right now. They have him as the clear-cut starter at catcher, which maybe he starts opening day, but that doesn't make much sense because it's got Henry Davis in a short side platoon in the outfield right now as the backup catcher as well. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
That's a nightmare. Like
that's a former number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, that is absolutely what you can't have happen. Like he needs to be there to play every so often because I don't think he's cooked, but I don't think he's good either. Like I think he's a solid player.
That's what cooked means.
And cooked his ass. I think like he's a solid enough player to have, sort of like a Santana guy. They had Carlos Santana last year, sort of a vibes guy. Grandal, I don't know. He always kind of seems like he looks like a old timey like villain in like a vaudeville movie or whatever.
Former Dodger, former steroids user. The vibes couldn't be more immaculate.
Yeah, they got excellent White Sox guy too. He always it's his eyebrows. I think it's his eyebrows and his facial hair. He looks like a villain in like a Western that ties women to train tracks to me.
Maybe that's what he'll do in his next career.
Maybe he's going to go tie Henry Davis's career on some train tracks because they're going to have to put him in the outfield to accommodate playing this bum. I don't know.
There you go.
No shot. To me, it's just ridiculous if this is going to take away playing time from Henry Davis and Andy Rodriguez. If you use him as like a mentor and he's going to play like, I don't know, 30 games this year and then just ride off into the sunset to go do whatever the hell he wants to do with his life, cool. If you're actually expecting him to play a lot of baseball, this move is stupid, but the Pirates are stupid too. So kind of checks out. The Padres re-signed Jurickson Profar in another deal. It's a 1-year deal worth $1 million. It's got $1.5 million worth of incentives baked in there, though. I don't know if you have seen the TikTok memes about Jurickson Profar being the best baseball player of all time, but there's some of my absolute favorites.
You might have sent them to me.
I haven't sent them to you before, but I'll go find them again. Yeah. Jurickson Profar is the Jurickson Profar role, and that's what he's going to be doing with the Padres.
I usually wouldn't include somebody like this signing a deal. Like I removed guys like Eduardo Escobar and stuff. They signed minor league deals, but like, they might have similar roles to Profar. But right now, he is projected to be the starting left fielder for the Padres, which is so bad. Their outfield is bad. Like you got Tatis carrying it all, but in center field and left field, it's not looking too good right now. And third base is pretty similar as well. Don't feel too confident about this offense, but I didn't realize how bad Profar was last year with the Padres and the Rockies. He was actually not bad with the Padres, but he only played 14 games with the Rockies. He was like the worst player in baseball, -2 FWAR in 117 games. Just an awful defender, terrible offense, 72 WRC plus. I think he might also be cooked. And this is also a guy that was a former number 1 overall prospect. But yeah, it's crazy. If they're using him as an everyday guy, it's bad for them. But, I think he can still be serviceable as a guy that's mostly coming off the bench and, providing positional flexibility as a utility guy. But he is not somebody you want to count on right now. He's projected to bat 7th in the lineup. And that is no, he's got to bat 9th. And the fact that he's like a utility guy where you're relying on his defense and he was like a terribly awful defender last year, literally -19.1 defensive WAR. If I look at the advanced stats, he was, let's see, last year he was, why is it sorted like that? What the frick? Sorted really weird. Defensive run saved. He was 1 at first base. I like outs above average. He was 0 at first base. He was -13 in left field. Oh my God.
It's pretty good.
No, what? Negative 14 across all outfield spots. That's so, like he might have been the worst defender in baseball, which is crazy considering he's not like a big fat lumbering guy that can't run.
He's just ass. That's so cool, to be honest. You want to hear a cool fact?
Yeah.
Jurickson Profar had accumulated more career F-WAR as a San Diego Padre than Eric Hosmer did.
Negative 0.1 was more. Or are you talking about across his whole Padres career?
Across his whole Padres career, he somehow accumulated more career F-WAR than Eric Hosmer did by a pretty significant margin. I know that's why it came up. So Jurickson Profar, man, that guy's the best baseball player I've ever seen. He's the good.
Hey, there was a time. There was a time when he looked like he might finally be figuring things out with the Rangers.
More prospect, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. He's a guy. I don't know how down bad their outfield has to be for him to be like, okay, we got to get this guy.
Right now he's their second best outfielder.
That's pathetic, to be honest. That's extremely pathetic.
They got to do something.
Yeah, not great for sure.
Go get Bellinger.
I feel like if it was still,
they won't.
I feel like if it was still Peter Seidler, they probably would.
Sure.
But not now. Yeah, they're in a weird spot right now.
Giants are going to be better than they are.
Speaking of the Giants,
there you go. I just hope
I know, I appreciate it. Speaking of the Giants, we can talk about them signing one of my favorite baseball players still currently in Major League Baseball. They've signed Jorge Soler to a 3-year, $42 million deal, much to my chagrin, because gets to play for the Giants. Really cool. I am getting absolutely smoked in our free agent predictions now. But Jorge Soler will add some much-needed power to the San Francisco Giants lineup and will hope to become their first 30 home run hitter since Barry Bonds.
Yep, that's the big thing here is that they just need a guy who can hit home runs. And Soler does that. You know, he hit more than 30 last year. He's always hit home runs. He's had trouble staying healthy, but like as long as you keep him at DH, then I think he's fine. But therein lies the problem in that he is a guy that you do not want to play the field. And the Giants were like the worst defensive team in baseball last year. So not only does his addition further limit their defensive flexibility in terms of shuffling guys through the DH role or, you know, removing somebody like Michael Conforto from the corner outfield and putting him at DH, but like his addition is going to make it also negative when he does have to inevitably play the field every once in a while. It does make the lineup a lot better. The lineup is still not good enough, but I do like the addition. I think he's a fun guy, but it is crazy just the offseason the Giants have had where they sort of just sold everybody that they just signed last year and then just tried to redo it again, this time with like, you know, Jung-Hoo Lee and Jorge Soler and you know, grabbing Robbie Ray and stuff, but it's not providing me a lot of confidence that like this is the move that does it, because the defense is so bad that I'm like, I still want them to go get Matt Chapman, or they need somebody that can improve this team defensively. Cause like while Jung-Hoo Lee might be pretty solid in center field and Patrick Bailey is good behind the plate, I don't think they have a single guy that's a good defender. And this move forces Wilmer Flores to third base so that they can keep Lamont Wade Jr. at first. And I don't trust a 33-year-old Wilmer at third base, no matter how much goodwill he's gotten from fans in the past couple of years, but they are literally below average at every defensive position right now. Maybe Tyro Estrada is better than I'm remembering, but they do not have good defense, and it's not like they've got guys that are going to come up and fix that either. So it's pretty unfortunate, and it's like right now the rotation is relying on like healthy returns from Cobb and Ray to make the rotation go from bad to, you know, could be pretty good if everybody's solid. I don't see a postseason appearance on the horizon this year, and it's going to take a lot of work next offseason for that to be the case. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun signing. I'm always down for my team to spend money, and they've spent, I think, the second most dollars this offseason behind the Dodgers. And that's crazy considering the state of the roster right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like We've talked about it on a bunch of podcasts before and outside of it, but it really feels like the Giants are primed to make one more move. And I don't know if it's Matt Chapman. It feels like their team really fits with him. They also fit really well with Willie Adames, but it feels like are they going to do this? Are they not? It's sort of a weird spot. I want to look at the move a little bit more in a vacuum because as a whole, I mean, your lineup is a lot better than last year because for me, effectively, if you're going to force yourself to still trot out Michael Conforto out there, who was literally, I think he had like a 98 or a 100 WRC plus last year. He was like basically right at league average. For me, that's not the move I want to look at. I think Jorge Soler is directly replacing their mostly DH last season, which was Jock Peterson. And I think he is so much better than Jock. And I think that's not really much of a debate. Jock last year posted like 111 WRC plus 0.6 F4, strikes out 21% of the time. Jock Peterson, 348 on base percentage. He hit 15 bombs. You can look at Jorge Soler, strikes out 24% of the time, 340 on base percentage, 126 WRC plus with 36 home runs. And I don't know if you would call it like an equally hitter unfriendly park to the pull side for Jorge Soler. But I think that he's got a great chance to hit 30 home runs with San Fran if he just stays healthy. I think the rest of their lineup has gotten better. I like Jung-Hoo Lee. I think the reports from him so far through camp have looked pretty solid. If you are just looking at this as Soler replacing Jock Peterson, great move. The defense questions are definitely there. It's just this is a move that looks a lot better if the Giants continue to add, and that's the $1 million question. Are they going to add?
Literally.
Because nobody knows. They definitely need to. Them being the second biggest spenders this offseason is crazy because they're still probably not going to get in the playoff spot.
That's what I'm saying.
Like that, and I like the moves they made. It's just like your division is difficult. Like your division is difficult. Well, mostly
it's like the Dodgers.
Yeah,
the D-backs are good, but it's like, anybody's gonna have trouble beating the Dodgers. I think with the current playoff format, it's like you're competing against the wild card.
You're competing against the wild card. Your division, for me, is difficult because a lot of your division are wild card scrappers at this point. Like the Rockies are ass. Okay, count them out of the equation.
We just told you the Padres are ass too.
Yeah, but are the Padres more ass than the Giants? I don't know.
With Jurickson, Profar in left field, they might be.
Okay. Well, they've got the equivalent of like most.
The Giants are a 500 team. The Giants are a 500 team.
I think the Padres are a 500 team.
Sure.
And I think the Diamondbacks are probably a little bit better than a 500 team.
Yeah, 100%.
I think they're probably like an 88 win team. So like you're battling with a bunch of wild card scrappers that aren't going to go away. Like your division is really wonky. You're battling against a wild card. You're relying on a lot. You said like Robbie Ray and Alex Cobb coming back healthy. It feels like Logan Webb and Alex Cobb are already more or less ground ball pitchers, and then your defense is ass. It's like that's not really going to work very well.
Exactly.
You need like the Cubs, for example. Like their entire rotation are ground ball pitchers, but they have an excellent infield defense. The Giants are like, okay, all of our rotation are ground ball pitchers except for Robbie Ray. Our defense is dog shit. What are you doing with this? This move in a vacuum, awesome. Love Georgie Sunshine. That guy is one of my favorite baseball players at all. If you're relying on him, hey, bud, go carry our offense on the power front. This is a stupid move. Like, you have to do something else.
Because he's not a guy that's going to carry the offense anyway. He's like a guy you want like as a supplemental power guy.
He's a guy you want. He's a guy that wants you. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. He's a guy that you want to hit fifth or sixth. That's what you want out of Jorge Soler. You do not want Jorge Soler to be hitting cleanup, and you don't want him to be hitting third.
He's the biggest bat in the lineup. He should be like the third.
Yeah, he's probably going to hit third, or he's probably going to hit cleanup, and that's it. And he shouldn't be not on a team like this. But yeah, that's sort of the thoughts on the move. We can talk about potentially less but more impactful move, and it's the Phillies signing Whit Merrifield, super utility guy, to a 1-year, $7 million deal. Got an $8 million club option for 2025 with $1 million buyout then. And the Phillies grab Whit, which feels like a really solid supplementary move to a team that just really needs to get over the hump right now after a pretty disappointing playoff exit.
Yeah, I think it's a fine move. It definitely adds depth to a team that I feel like doesn't really have a lot of depth. So it sort of, to me, feels like a contingency plan if Johan Rojas doesn't work out. We saw him play really well last year, and he's clearly a very good defender. But if he's more of a Christian Pache, then I don't even know who else to compare him to. Then he might be a guy that needs to be relegated to the bench, which in a contingency plan, they could move Brandon Marsh to center and then have Witt play in the corner outfield. And I think that that's perfectly fine, especially like Witt can play the corners with Bryce Harper, relegated to just first base duties as well. That is a good plan to have a guy like that. I wouldn't say he's a great defender or anything, but just his ability to play all over the field and to be able to back up like Bryson Stott and stuff. I think that's great. He's not like a good hitter anymore. He hasn't been above league average since 2020. And if we count that out, 2019. But yeah, he's fast. For a team that does not have a lot of speed outside of Marsh, Rojas, and actually now I'm eating my own words very quickly. You consider like the outfield, and you're like, oh, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, they got a bunch of slow guys, and then you're just like, wait, they got Trey Turner, Bryson Stott, JT Realmuto. Okay, never mind, they got a lot of fast guys. I guess he's good depth for the team. He's not going to be playing every day. There is a path to that, but he doesn't really need to. He's not a good bat, but his positional flexibility and his ability to impact the game on the base paths, I think, helps him bring a little different vibe to the team. And honestly, I feel like he fits really well with this team, despite the fact that he's not going to play every day.
Yeah, I think there's a strong chance that he plays like really often though. Super utility guys are like a must now with every baseball team, just because of the 26-man roster. Typically that goes to a bench player, and now you have one of the most premier bench players in all of baseball with Merrifield. Basically whoever needs a day off, just have him go out there and play, because he's more than able to do that. He's a guy that you know exactly what you're going to get for him. He's going to be right around 100 WRC pluses. Last few years he hasn't hit that, but really, do you really care? Because he's just kind of a guy near the back end of your lineup now to just turn it over and play defense. And I think that's more than efficient at this point in his career. Great. I mean, it's a solid move for Witt, who wants to win, and it's a solid move for Philly, who really need depth for their team to try to make a push. So we can move on, and we can talk about another move that I am a pretty big fan of, and it's the Red Sox signing Liam Hendriks, who likely not going to pitch this year, recovering from Tommy John, to a 2-year, $8 million deal. It's got $20 million worth of incentives baked in there, though. The $12 million mutual option for 2026. That also includes a $2 million buyout. Liam Hendriks, one of the best stories from last year, coming back, pitching after recovering from cancer. Unfortunately, it was cut short by injury. Now gets a chance on a 2-year deal, reclamation project with the Red Sox.
$20 million of incentives is absolutely wild.
Yes, it is
so much. And it's likely probably tied to how many saves he gets. Like, I assume there's like a big incentive if he gets like 40 saves in 2025 or something. And maybe some of those are baked into the mutual option as well. But that's a lot. So if you thought 2 years, $8 million is low, there's plenty of opportunity for him to garner more money. But I mean, it's easy to forget after not seeing him at all in 2023 and watching his season come to a early end in 2022, that he was the best closer in baseball for 4 straight years, which is super consistent, just had insane numbers. Like, his strikeout minus walk rates were incredible. There was a year where he had a 42.3% strikeout rate and a 2.6% walk rate. That's nearly a 40% strikeout minus walk percentage, which is just absolutely bonkers. But yeah, he was doing some really crazy stuff, and I'm really pumped to see him come back wearing different socks nonetheless. The timeline works really well for them because they've got Kenley Jansen this year, and then I think he's a free agent after this season. He's a free agent after this season. So if Hendriks can maybe, work his way back and maybe throw an inning or two at the end of the year or whatever, and stay healthy through next offseason, he'll be the closer right away in 2025, which works well. You go straight from Jansen to Hendriks. You don't really have to worry about that. They don't really have a guy that is the next man up there in Boston. But yeah, that's really fun. And the Red Sox are sort of in that same mold right now as the Mets, where it's like they're not really trying to compete this year. At least their offseason moves have suggested that. but 2025 seems to be the year that they're probably going to go for. And with Hendricks hopefully at full health, at full strength, maybe he gets back on track and is a great closer for them in 2025.
Definitely. So it's just going to be nice to see him come back to baseball.
Yeah.
I do like the timeline with Jansen because the Red Sox are going to be bad. They can just sell off Jansen anyway. It's not really that big a deal, even if he was I think he is an impending free agent, but even if he wasn't, I mean, that's a guy that you probably should move because I don't think the Red Sox are going to be competitive. Liam Hendricks, you're giving him a chance here. The $20 million worth of incentives, most likely, like you said, tied into saves. You could have a guy that, maybe if they are good, you have someone who is, a good back end of the guy. Liam Hendricks seems like one of the better just guys in baseball. Plus a lot of energy.
Get him in that clubhouse. They're going to have fun.
Oh, yeah. You kind of need people like that are just not going to be miserable because the Red Sox season, I don't think, is going to be very fun this year. At least we can move on and we can talk about another guy who is not going to play baseball this upcoming year, and it's the Brewers re-signing Brandon Woodruff to a 2-year, $7.5 million deal. It's actually backloaded, so the 2.5 is going to be due this upcoming season because he's not going to pitch, recovering from he was also a Tommy John guy.
No, it's his shoulder injury.
Okay, I didn't think so. I wanted to say like thoracic outlet, but that's like bad.
No, he's got shoulder problems.
Okay, yeah, he's basically not going to throw this year. So it's $2.5 million deal this year. It's $5 million the year after that, and then the next year in 2026 is a $20 million mutual option, and I think that has a $10 million buyout. That does,
which is crazy.
That is crazy, but not like super out of the question.
He's making more money for not playing. He's making more money for not playing with the team in 2026 than he is for being on the team in the 2 years prior.
See, I'm kind of cool with that if you're the Brewers, because for me, Brandon Woodruff's done a lot for Milwaukee. Like I'm kind of cool every now and then doing the sentimental kind of deals for guys like this, because even if you're the Brewers, like it also shows like, hey, we'll kind of take care of you. Plus they kind of need some goodwill with some players after they pissed off Corbin Burns and kind of had to deal him. So I still sort of like that. Cause like, here's $10 million. We'll backload your deal. We're not going to pay you very much. Just rehab, come back. We'll give you a chance. I'm kind of cool with it. Also, weirdly enough, this has a no trade in it. There's a no trade clause in this deal, even though it's effectively a 1+1 because he's not going to play this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Weird.
Well, like the thing is with mutual options, like rarely ever get exercised. And I explained this before, but it's like, if the player pitches really well, they're going to test free agency. And if he doesn't pitch really well, then like the team's going to let him go. And so either way, you're hitting free agency.
It's basically got a 2026
$10 million
where they're just going to give him $10 million.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. But so I mean, this whole situation was weird because it was like they non-tendered him at the beginning of the offseason because he was set to miss the whole year. And this was his final year of arbitration control before free agency. So it's like, you're going to be paying him, $15 million or whatever to not play this year and then to straight up hit free agency. And like, that's not going to work. No team's going to trade for him either. And so like, it made sense for them to non-tender him because they likely weren't going to be able to get anything trade wise. But then the fact that he like loved playing in Milwaukee so much that he wanted to return there. And maybe that's like a familiarity thing where he feels more comfortable working his way back from this surgery to get back to his old form without any other outside factors of like switching teams and moving his family and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think it makes sense for both sides to do this. And the Brewers were really smart to let him go and then to restructure a deal in which they're paying him less money for more control as well. And, they'll have him on the team in 2026 for really cheap or for 2025. And then with the very, very small possibility of having him back in 2026. But I think for both sides, this makes sense. I thought Woodruff was going to go to the Mets though, because it made so much sense to me that, with the Mets being in a situation where they didn't want to compete in 2024, but we're going to go all out for 2025. This is the type of guy where you get him discounted right now, a top of the rotation ace, you get him discounted. And then the following year, it's like, all right, now you have this guy to add to a rotation that has like Senga, not a lot. The rotation is probably the worst part of the team. So it's like you add a guy like Woodruff on there for cheap, and he perfectly aligns with your competitive window. It made a lot of sense, but this also makes sense for the Brewers and Woodruff.
I'm kind of cool with it being, it's effectively a 3-year deal worth $17.5 million, and the 10 million, the 10 million buyout.
It just looks so weird structured like that.
It does, but since they basically non-tendered him because he was due to make, like, what'd you say, probably around 15 million. I think his previous year before that he got like 10 in like arbitration or something wild. Like, he got a pretty solid amount. It's basically a, hey, sorry, we kind of boned you on your arbitration money. Like, it's sort of like a thanks for re-signing. Here's some goodwill, $10 million. I'm cool with that. They've really hooked him up. It's got a no trade, so he knows he's going to be in Milwaukee. I also found this article, and it's from AP, that says it includes in his deal that he gets full accommodation on the road, and he's just going to go with the team on the road trips. So he's just going to be with the team on the road trips. Like, that's cool. Like, I'm kind of cool with that. The Brewers are really doing right by Brandon Woodruff, and that's why I'm a big fan of this, because like he's been such a big part of them just being good. It's got one of their biggest like playoff moments ever, the home run, like the playoff home run. I think he hit that off Kershaw. I think this is a cool little sentimental deal, and also good for Woodruff. He's going to get a chance to pitch. He's going to hit free agency pretty much regardless. I don't think he's going to ever pick up that option's not going to get picked up. So hopefully he'll pitch well, as long as he's not pitching against the Cubs in 2025, and then he'll get a big payday. So I really like this deal in the way it's structured. Then we got one more deal, and it's the Tampa Bay Rays finding their shortstop of the future after Wander Franco got jettisoned into the sun. Like he deserves. And then it's a 1-year deal for Ahmed Rosario worth $1.5 million with a $500,000 worth of incentives that can make it $2 million. Of course, that's being facetious because Junior Caminero is on the way, but Ahmed Rosario is a guy that plays baseball.
I don't think he's going to be their shortstop, because they got Jose Caballero earlier this year, and I think they plan on him being the shortstop, and then Rosario is going to be a utility guy. That's what I've seen all over. But I was so surprised how little money he got, because I think the general consensus was that he was going to get like, $5 to $7 million a year. And the fact that he got 1.5 with only $500K of incentives is super low. And it's like, I sort of get it, because it's not like he's an above average player. He's, for his career, he's a 95 WRC plus, and his career high is 105. So he's never been a guy that's incredible with the bat. And he's a solid defender. He does not play the outfield well, nor does he play shortstop well, but he's fast enough to make up for it. So like at his peak, he's been an average player, which 2 WAR is like, I think a lot of people confuse WAR where 0 is average. 0 is not average. 0 is like what the average AAA, like if you just grabbed a guy from AAA, that guy's going to be 0 WAR. 2 WAR is like the average major leaguer, and that's where he's been at his peak. 2.7. He's had 1 2.5, and he's had 1 2.0. But last year he was really bad defensively. The offense was an 88 WRC plus. So I guess it makes sense if you're just like, this guy is just really an average major leaguer, he is just a guy, then I guess that makes sense. But because it feels like he still has a lot of potential in terms of like, it feels like he's got more power in his bat than he's displayed, a career high of 15 home runs in the juice ball year, 11 outside of that. And he doesn't strike out a lot, and he's really fast and, makes a lot of contact, and he's only going to be 28 this next year. I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of potential in there. He's a former top prospect as well, but it's crazy to me that he only got 1 year and 1.5 million, and the Rays are probably going to turn him into a beast, and he's going to play like every single position. And it's going to be like, how did they get this guy for 1.5 million? And then they're going to trade him or maybe they won't trade him because they only have him for 1 year. But yeah, it seems pretty wild that they were able to get him at such a diminished value for a guy that I think is going to be very, very solid. If not, like, if they work some magic on him, I think he could actually be really good.
Yeah, the thing that I'm mostly concerned about, positional versatility is good, but I think he's going to most likely be on the short side of a platoon against lefties because Ahmed Rosario, kind of a known lefty killer. He's got like a career like 806 OPS or something like that against lefties. He's been really good against them for his career, which I think is going to be really solid, especially for a team that platoons a lot like the Rays. I think he's going to get plenty of opportunities there. Most likely going to get a lot of reps, corner outfield. I think he's mostly going to get more burn at like second, probably not so much at short. They're basically just going to get him in whenever he can play. Just
Platoon him
throw
with
him in
Brandon Lau.
Yeah, I think that probably fits really well, and that helps both of those guys out. But yeah, I think because he was good last year with the Dodgers after he ended up there. But yeah, this feels like a Rays move where he's just going to end up as an all-star and we're going to look stupid. And the Rays are going to look like they're mega geniuses for getting this guy for $1 million. He has a career 121 WRC plus against lefties and an 84 against righties, I think is the correct.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to kill lefties for the Rays, guaranteed. And that's all for our offseason transactions. And we can get on to starting our division offseasons in review. And we're going to start with the AL East. So how do you want to run this down, Jake?
I think last year we sort of just like looked at it just from above, just like looked at the whole thing all together rather than going through like each move. That's sort of the point of doing the offseason transactions every episode for the whole offseason. It's like we get a chance to talk about each of these individual moves and individual players, but now it's time to pull back and see like what does everything add up to, and then give a grade. We're probably going to do like A's and B's letter grades. I think we stay away from pluses and minuses because that creates too much minutia there. But yeah, we can start with the Orioles. We're going alphabetical order by city. So the Orioles are first. Their additions were Craig Kimbrell and Corbin Burns, and their subtractions were Shintaro Fujinami, Jack Flaherty, Adam Frazier, Aaron Hicks, Kyle Gibson, Joey Ortiz, and DL Hall. I don't know. How do you feel about this one? Because you sort of have to consider everything of like how the Orioles competed last year, sort of what you expected of them, and where they sit now, especially with like the news of who's the right-hander's name? Kyle Bradish and John Means looking like they're going to be dealing with injuries. Did you hear about Bradish?
I actually had not. I knew about Means, but I didn't know about Bradish.
Bradish has got elbow troubles right now, and he's going to be on the IL to start the year, which is awful because he was like one of the best pitchers in baseball in the second half.
Looking at it in a vacuum without them having that knowledge for Bradish and still with time, I think I would give this a B. I think that they added in areas that they really needed to. They really needed an ace to kind of solidify that staff. They got it. Corbin Burns. I think Craig Kimbrell is the perfect signing for the back end of the bullpen for one that's not going to have Felix Bautista. I would have liked to have seen them add a bat, specifically kind of a big power bat, maybe someone that's still available. I think this team would have worked pretty well for Jorge Soler, to be honest. Maybe a lefty bat also somewhere in there. JD Martinez, I still think sort of fits there also. I would go B just because they added two guys. Great. My big thing is they didn't lose anyone of any consequence, and they just added. I was trying to debate between A and B. I'm going to go safer and go with B.
Yeah, I don't think they quite go A for me. I feel like A has to be a situation where they really went above and beyond.
Really great.
Yeah.
Great.
Like if they had gone and got like Dylan Cease and Corbin Burns and then added like a little bit more to the bullpen or to the lineup or something, which I think their lineup's completely fine. The amount of depth that they have with the guys in the minor leagues they've got, they really should not be adding anybody there. But the fact that they did go out and get Corbin Burns, I think was super important. Before that, I probably would have had them as an F if without the Corbin Burns move, because it was like, that's just Craig Kimbrell. And that was like a spot where if you didn't fill that, it might be whatever's worse than F, a Z. But yeah, I think I'm also in the B territory. I'm leaning more towards C just because I would have liked to see them do more. I know this team was really good last year, 100 wins, but I would have loved to see this team go all out, but they have played it conservative for the last few years while the team has been up and coming. So they do not want to drop. They don't want to trade away their prospects, and they made a trade for an ace, and they barely gave up anything. So I think that was a great trade, and I'll give them a B just because they found the holes on the roster, which was closer and an ace, and they went and they filled those about as admirably as you could do in the fashion that they did it. And so I'll commend them for, not spending a lot on a closer where they only need one for 1 year before Bautista returns, and then going in getting an ace on the cheap by just giving up Ortiz and DL Hall. But I would have loved to see them do more. Yeah, I think I'm a B as well, though on the lower end.
Definitely, and we can go to the Boston Red Sox because I think this one won't take all that long. So
yeah, the Red Sox added Tyler O'Neill, Lucas Giolito, and Vaughn Grissom, and they subtracted Adalberto Mondesi, Adam Duvall, James Paxton, Justin Turner, Luis Urias, Alex Verdugo, and Chris Sale and John Schreiber, which was a trade that just recently happened.
Definitely. So for me, this one didn't take very long. I had to deliberate was between I was going to give them an F or a D. I think I'm going to go with D because I like the Grissom trade and everything else is so disappointing. The Red Sox feel like another team where for me in baseball, the literal worst place you can be in professional sports, the worst place you can be is like in this weird, like little doldrums where you're around 500, where you're never really going to make the playoffs and you're never bad enough to like really get a high draft pick because now it's a lottery. It's not like you just get the top pick for being ass. It's a lottery now, which I'm cool with now because teams like this, you really have to kind of go one way or another. And the Red Sox are sort of towing the line and they're going to be bad, but they're not going to be bad enough to get a really high pick. They added Lucas Giolito. Who gives a shit? They added Lucas Giolito. Their rotation needs like 3 more starters to be worth anything. They're pretty terrible there. I really am not a big fan of the Tyler O'Neill trade. I think you're banking on a lot of things for Tyler O'Neill kind of repeating where he was at, and he just never really is healthy enough. For me, they lost a lot of guys that I think they should look at still. Adam Duvall just went off there. James Paxton, for what he got paid by the Dodgers, that is one that they should have been all over. I do really like the trade to get Vaughn Grissom for Chris Sale. But still, the fit for that long-term in the future is sort of up in the air. I think this is a D for me because also with the comments being made by Rafael Devers, you're kind of pissing off your star by giving them a non-competitive baseball team. Great. You're making the really right choices here, Boston. I'm firmly of the opinion that big market teams should never be in a big rebuild because you have the money and the dollar resources to outspend your competition. Baseball does not have a salary cap. You can just spend a lot more money than the other teams if you really want to. That's what the Dodgers are doing, and they're good. The Red Sox have more than enough capability to, and they just don't, and they won't. And I think they're pathetic for that. So I'm going to go D.
Yeah, I was pretty excited for the offseason for them with the addition of Craig Breslow to head the baseball operations department. Mm-hmm. And you said you didn't like the O'Neill trade. That was actually one that got me really excited because it felt really smart. Them like getting rid of Verdugo and getting O'Neill. I feel like O'Neill
they're the same guy, they're the same production level of guy, just through different means.
Yeah, I just think if O'Neill stays healthy and playing in a ballpark like that, like he's got much more ceiling, and I think he's got more control as well. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's a free agent.
They're not. They're both free agents.
Okay. Yeah, I think Verdugo's just pretty mid, and I think O'Neill's got the ability to be like an all-star, but obviously like the floor is a lot lower and the ceiling's a lot higher compared to Verdugo, where they're very close together. So I was pretty excited for that because it felt like a roundabout way to improve in that position. But then they went ahead and did nothing else. Like signing Giolito was almost a necessity. Like you had to get a rotation guy there. And then they just like took away from it by getting rid of Sale. So it's like, I sort of like a lot of the guys in the rotation right now, like Cutter Crawford and Brian Bayo and Nick Pavetta. And I think they have enough.
Yeah, I like some of the guys.
They have enough depth with like Whitlock and Houck that they can make things work. But it's like, it's sort of like they remained where they were. They just treaded water. And then
it feels like their team, like at max for me, wins like 78 baseball games. And then that's sort of where you're at, which like, that's not where you want to be at going into the season at all. Like it's just, to me, it was not nearly enough.
And the Von Grissom trade, I think, was interesting in that, like, I think they probably won that, giving up all the money that they're owed to Chris Sale on a guy that really hasn't been contributing to the team. And I think their rotation will be, not really affected by his loss. But I wish they had gone for some other prospect. Maybe there was no other team that was looking for an addition of Chris Sale, so that's like the best they could do, and they'll probably figure something out with him. Maybe he moves to left field after O'Neal's gone, but their offense in terms of prospects is completely loaded and in the positions that Grissom would likely play. If Grissom's a shortstop or a second baseman, it's like you've got Trevor Story there, you've got Marcelo Meyer blocking you, and then in the outfield, it's like you got Sedan Rafaela, you got Roman Anthony, even a guy like Nick York is going to play second base. It's like every single guy that you have coming up from the minors in the next couple of years is going to play a position that Grissom does. And so I feel like you are sort of limiting your own team's potential as well as Grissom's potential, because he's like going to be fighting for his life to stay afloat and figure out a spot there for him. I'm sure they'll be able to work everything out. Like, it's always better to have more depth than less, but it's like with all of the positions filled, including like third base, first base, and shortstop, it's like he's going to be fighting with everybody to maintain a position on that team. So it felt like everything like had every addition that they made had a detraction, where it's like the Giolito trade detracted by the Chris Sale trade, the Von Grissom addition detracted by the prospects that they have coming up, the Tyler O'Neill trade detracted by the Verdugo subtraction. And so that also leads me to a spot where I'm giving them a D. I wouldn't go F because I wouldn't call it a terrible offseason. It's not like when we'll get to the Marlins where they literally did nothing. And that's usually when I'm giving an F, or a team like the Mariners, maybe. I haven't thought about it yet, but that's like a team that just got rid of so much because of money. But yeah, with the expectations that we had of the Red Sox and the abilities that they have in terms of money and prospect capital to go and make the team really good, they had an opportunity to go off. And then they added 3 guys that I think allow them to tread water, which is not great in this super, super tough division.
Yeah, super uninspiring is how I would call it. And for me, that just kind of screams D. And our next team is the New York Yankees.
Yeah, they added Alex Verdugo, Juan Soto, Trent Grisham, Victor Gonzalez, Cody Poteet, Marcus Stroman, and Caleb Ferguson. And they subtracted Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Keenan Middleton, Luis Severino, Wandy Peralta, Frankie Montas, Domingo Herman, Drew Thorpe, Randy Vasquez, Johnny Brito, Michael King, Kyle Higashioka, and Estevan Florial.
Yeah, so I'm going to let you go first with the Yankees. I've been going first the other time, so I'll let you start with your thoughts on New York Yankees.
Yeah, I feel like there is some disappointment from Yankees fans in regard to this offseason, because it felt like they got Juan Soto and then shut up, which is fair. They really, after that, they got a couple like guys that they use for the fringes of the bullpen, and Gonzalez and Poteet added to the rotation with Stroman, and sort of did the same with the bullpen with Ferguson. And it didn't really feel like they were going and doing like Yankees style stuff, especially when you're comparing your team to the Dodgers. The Dodgers now feel like the late 90s Yankees, while the Yankees feel like, second fiddle to that, where it's like you go and get Juan Soto, which is huge. But then you don't really back that up with other big signings, which Stroman is a very solid signing. It's impactful for the team, but it's not like something where you're like, holy moly, the Yankees are back. Like when they signed Garrett Cole and traded for Giancarlo Stanton. And it's like you sort of need to combine a couple together. That being said, I do think that they did what they needed to do with this team. The rotation needed a guy that you could count on to eat innings. That's literally Marcus Stroman's MO, is just like, I'm going to be pretty solid and I'm going to eat innings as long as I'm healthy, because the rest of that rotation outside of Cole is high upside and very high injury risk. So it's like, you just want a guy that's going to be there. So when, Nestor Cortez or Carlos Rodon or any other guy in the rotation inevitably hits the IL, you have Cole and Stroman that you can rely on. So I think that was a great addition. And Juan Soto makes a lineup that really struggled to find complements to Aaron Judge last year. And he fills that perfectly in terms of both being a guy that can bat ahead of him and then also bat from the left side. Really excited to see how that works. It lengthens the lineup. And then they also needed to add to the outfield, mostly defensively, because you're employing like Giancarlo Stanton and because, you're running out Aaron Judge in center field. And so I think getting a guy like Trent Grisham to back up Judge is perfect, right? Like that's just like exactly what you need. It's the guy, he doesn't even have to hit. He can just play good defense out there. And I think Verdugo works well too until Jason Dominguez comes back. So that's all well and good. And I think it's a very decent offseason. It's not one that's like blowing your socks off, but they did add depth to the bullpen. They got that innings eater in the rotation. They helped out the outfield, and then they got a star to pair alongside Aaron Judge. I think it's a B for me.
I think I'm also going to go B because of pretty similar reasons. I think this one is pushed up to an A if they can add one more big piece to the rotation. I know there's reports that they had an offer out to Blake Snell. I think they're a better fit for Jordan Montgomery, which is funny enough because they traded him away. I think if they get Jormont or if they get Snell, I think it bumps up to an A, but right now I'm going to go with B for similar reasons. Juan Soto almost on his own bumps this to a B, and then everything else on top of that is a plus. I just don't necessarily think it's enough to bump it all the way up to an A for me. I do like a lot of the ads they did. Caleb Ferguson, really good. Victor Gonzalez kind of replaces your Wandy Peralta sort of situation. I think Trent Grisham, although he is extremely flawed, I really like the roster fit for him because of the defense. You have Juan Soto, who is not an excellent defender. You're going to most likely trot him out there in right or have him DH. I think you're going to have Alex Verdugo. Sure, whatever. I think Alex Verdugo is exceedingly mid. He's one of the most mid baseball players in all of Major League Baseball. But like you said, he's basically there to just play until Jason Dominguez comes back. Perfectly fine plan. Trent Grisham getting in there and getting games away from Aaron Judge having to play the field in center and saving his body a little bit, since he is the Yankees' long-term investment. Like, that's your guy. Trent Grisham helping that case in that situation is so good. I also really like Marcus Stroman. Kind of sucks that he's on the Yankees. He is kind of a jackass on Twitter sometimes and in general, but I like Stroman, the personality. Yeah, that one is a little wild. But yeah, I think they did what they needed to do. I think they've added in places they needed to add. Juan Soto, I mean, they got a superstar. It still sucks to kind of see him play for the Yankees and not somewhere cooler. But yeah, I like this. It just doesn't have enough in it to be like, this has the star power to bump it to an A. For me, an A has to be like you hit everything that you needed to hit on. And the Yankees, unfortunately for me, just not quite there yet. One more starter, sure. We can have that conversation.
Then we have the Rays, who added Ryan Pepio, Johnny DeLuca, Richie Palacios, Jose Caballero, Naoyuki Uwasawa, Jacob Wagisback. That's a lot of names that are hard to pronounce. Phil Maton and Ahmed Rosario. And then they subtracted Robert Stevenson, Jake Diekman, Vidal Brujan, Manuel Margot, Tyler Glasnow, Luke Raley, and Andrew Kittredge. And this is an interesting offseason.
Yeah, I think so. I'm inclined more or less to go C. I can't make the case right now to go with a B because I feel like the Rays it's difficult to judge them at any point in time ever because they typically do this. Last season we talked like, oh, their big addition was their record signing of Zach Eflin. And he was good. It's like, whoever they sign most likely is going to be good, but the Rays and they're not really going to be making these crazy big trades. Well, I mean, they made the crazy big trade, but like these crazy big signings to be like, oh yeah, they're going to go out and sign a superstar. No, like it'll be Naoyuki Uwasawa, who I still believe is on like a minor league contract. Jacob, I don't even know how to pronounce that. I have to say it, Wagisback.
Also minor league contract.
Yeah, minor league contract. He came over from
NPB.
Was he He was NPB. I was gonna say I knew he was either KBO or NPB. Phil Maton, I really like. I think he's going to be completely disgusting. Almost kind of like Colin McHugh when they had him. I like him. Rosario, we already talked about that one. I'm pretty crazy about Pepio. I think Ryan Pepio and Jose Caballero, they're going to get a lot out of. It's just like it's the Rays. So nobody really, we know it's going to go well. It's just like a random collection of guys. So like on paper, it's difficult to be like, oh yeah, this is like a baller offseason. It's just a bunch of guys. The Rays are
Yeah.
going to turn them in. The Rays are going to be what fixes them or makes them even better.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's difficult to judge because of that.
Yeah, I think I'm also going C, but like I think they did a really good job, and it's like it's hard to tell because you really have to consider not only the whole picture but like the future as well, because you see like, oh, we got rid of Tyler Gladstone, Margot, and replaced them with Pepio and DeLuca. And it's like, okay, from like right now, from the last few seasons, it's like, that is bad. That is terrible. And it's like, well, if you consider the amount of control and the likelihood that Pepio is probably going to be really good and pitch more than Glasnow, because Glasnow's always freaking injured. I think Ryan Pepio, that trade is really good because Johnny DeLuca is basically Manuel Margot 2.0, great defender, probably could be good in a platoon. And then Pepio just, you get the control and it works super well as a replacement. I think Pepio is going to be really good. And then from there, it's like you traded Andrew Kittredge and you got Richie Palacios, who I'm sure they'll turn into something crazy. It's a St. Louis Cardinals outfielder. We've seen how that works out. They sold high on Luke Raley to get their starting shortstop. Caballero is a great defender. And then I think they're going to do crazy stuff with their minor league signings. Phil Maton's probably going to be a beast, basically direct replacement of Robert Stevenson for way cheaper. And then we already talked at length about Ahmed Rosario. So I really think they did really well. Though it is a C because they're treading water. They're replacing guys. It's more for maybe the bigger picture for like the next 5 years. Maybe it is a B, but I think just for 2024, it's a C because it's like you're replacing guys that you lost. It's not like you added to the team. But I think the way that they did it was really good. And that's why it's not a D.
Definitely so. And then I think this one won't take all that long to talk about either. And it's the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, they added Kevin Kiermaier, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Justin Turner, Yariel Rodriguez, Dan Vogelbach, and Eduardo Escobar. And they subtracted Jordan Hicks and Matt Chapman, who's still unsigned, Hyunjin Ryu, who just signed in KBO, Brandon Belt is still unsigned, Whit Merrifield, Adam Simber, and Otto Lopez.
Yeah, Hyunjin Ryu signed for the Hanwha Eagles, by the way.
He's like the highest paid player in KBO now.
I think he was with the Eagles before he came over. I'm gonna look that up really quick because I think I'm right. But yeah, what do you feel about this specific trade? Or not trade, about this specific team in their offseason?
I feel like they tried their best and it didn't work out, and their pivots were not good enough. Like I really want to go F, but it feels like it's not their fault. Almost like they tried to go after all the big guys and none of them wanted to go there. And so they sort of got stuck with re-signing Kiermaier, bringing in a utility guy like IKF, getting Justin Turner, who I think this might be the year that he finally falls off. He's sort of stuck in a DH role. And then Yariel Rodriguez probably won't contribute to the rotation too much because they have Manoah and Tiedemann. And like that, it's just like, you put all that together and it's like, okay, they maintain their center field. They got a utility bat and a DH guy and a swing man. And that's really not great for a team that needed like something significant because they're in this really tough division. They did not do well in the playoffs last year, despite going 89 wins. The lineup is just not good and the rotation is very solid, but they lost Jordan Hicks and Ryu, which I think their rotation is going to be completely fine. I think it's still very solid and their bullpen is also still very, very good, but the lineup is what needed additions. And it's like you added Justin Turner and I don't think that's going to do it. So I think I'm going F, but it feels bad because it's not like they didn't try. Which sort of has me closer to D, but the fact that they had such clear needs of like go and get a big guy and put him in that lineup to fix everything. And they would have probably been a B or an A if they did that, but they did not. And now it's like, you have to sign Bellinger if you want to salvage this offseason.
Yeah. I'm also going to go F. It is unfortunate. Like they did try, but like you said, it's more of a results game right now. And I think even some of the guys they sign, it's like, well, you have better options here. And I don't really understand what the general thought process behind it's like, okay, well, we didn't get the top guys. let's just get a bunch of guys. Like that feels more or less like what they did. Like, are these players garbage players in a vacuum? No, not debatably. I think there's definitely flaws with a bunch of them. Like you lost Matt Chapman and you potentially replaced that offensive output with Justin Turner. Sure, maybe. I don't really know. Like he's almost 40. Like he's really stuck in a weird spot because he's not really going to play a lot of third.
And that's your big bat that you added.
That's the big bat you added. I already gave the whole spiel of like, okay, well, you signed Kevin Kiermaier. I don't even think Kevin Kiermaier is good. He's kind of waned as a defender. He's gotten worse as a defender. There was a literal better, cheaper center fielder available that you left up. Michael A. Taylor actually posted a positive WRC plus, and you left him on the board. So you still are employing Kevin Kiermaier for what? If you wanted to go get Cody Bellinger, he's one
hot.
big guy.
They knew about the pants,
and maybe so. Maybe they already knew about the pants, and that's why they got him. It's just like I'm definitely gonna go F for it because you added a bunch of guys that literally you talked about it being a C with the Rays because they just replaced guys. Okay, replaced guys. I think the Jays have replaced guys and gotten shittier output.
Yes.
They have replaced a lot of their guys with worse guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you cannot do, especially in a division that is strong at the top. Like you have to beat the Rays. Don't think they're better than the Rays right now. Have to beat the Yankees. Definitely don't think they're better than the Yankees right now. And now they're stuck in a weird little flux spot where it's kind of getting to be prove it time with your big prospects now. Vladdy and Bo. Bo's good. Is Vladdy? I mean, he posted one F4 last season. He did get a little unlucky, but like now it's like, okay, our worst fears are kind of becoming reality with the Jays. They were supposed to be like, all right, here's the big next step for the Jays. They've never taken it. They haven't taken it so far this offseason to really push them over the top, and they're sort of out of options. Who's left to even look at to try to make their lineup better? I mean, you can go get Cody Bellinger. Who else can you cram in there? Like
they could get Matt Chapman back to it. That makes sense.
They could get Matt Chapman back. You know where that would put them almost exactly where they were at last season.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so now you're in that rough spot. It's sort of the same one. Like we'll talk about it with the Central one. And if it doesn't happen before this one, the Cubs, if they sign Cody Bellinger, for example, they're just right back where they started. And you haven't actually added or improved. The Matt Chapman one there, it's like they don't really need to add to their rotation. They need help in their lineup, and now all the bats are gone. Like all the ones that are like, who else could they get besides Cody Bellinger and Matt Chapman? JD Martinez, you just wasted your spot for that DH spot with Justin Turner. What do you do?
You're screwed.
It's
like spend $100 million or be bad, and they're just like, oh, it's like Uno.
Yeah, it's lit. You want to be shot or you want to be stabbed? Like, that's where they're at right now.
It's that Uno meme.
They tried, it didn't work, and now they're like literally left out in the rain with no umbrella. It's like, okay, this sucks.
My friend posted a question. It's very completely unrelated, but he says with the new shift restrictions and emphasis on launch angles, will 2024 be the year of super utility player? Bro, that is generated by ChatGPT. That is not a real. He is posting question upon question. These are 100% ChatGPT because shift restrictions were already employed last year. Emphasis on launch angles has been around forever, and I don't see what that even has to do with super utility players at all. Any take on this one? We've got 3 more to get through.
I'm looking at the other 3 already. New shift restrictions.
Second one, will teams prioritize versatile athletes who can adapt their hitting approach based on the situation, potentially sacrificing traditional defensive specialists for offensive flexibility? That doesn't make any sense. Adapt your hitting approach based. And why would that sacrifice defensive ability?
Adapting their hitting approach sounds like that shit post about Tim Anderson being like Tony Gwynn. And it's oh God.
Could this usher in a new era of positionless baseball where the demands of specific positions still hold value? That's ChatGPT 100%. I think we already are in an era of positionless baseball where many players can move around a lot. And I think we've actually shifted back. With the shift going away, you have less guys like freaking Max Muncy who can play second base, right? Because he's too fat or whatever. And then so he's relegated to first base, third base, and DH.
Because he's too fat.
And then non-baseball related, also, are any of the mascots real animals? Yes, the A's mascot is an elephant. Oh, a real animal. Oh, he went to Boulder. So I think he means like a little legitimate live animal. No.
No, I don't think so.
Either way, that wraps up our AL offseason in review. To recap, since we agreed everywhere, the Orioles have a B for the offseason. The Red Sox were a D. The Yankees were a B. The Rays were a C. And the Blue Jays were an F.
Great. I think that seems perfectly fair for the AL East. Yeah, those baseball. The AL East is at the same time the most competitive division and also one of the most deeply unserious baseball divisions. But yeah, I think that wraps up this episode. You're welcome, Gus. He said thanks. You're welcome. All prioritize versatile athletes who can adapt their hitting approach is a choice. That's all for this episode of the Free Baseball Podcast presented by the Athletes Hub. If you want to check back in with us next week, we're going to do our podcast on Wednesday where we're going to go over another one of the divisions. Do you want to go NL East and sort of continue it like that, or do you want to go AL and then NL?
I think we're on schedule for AL Central.
Awesome. So we're going to go with the AL Central off-season review. Hopefully there'll be more moves to talk about. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at DVSBird. That's my Twitter. And you can follow Jake Crumpler at Jake Crumpler. It's easy enough. It's his name. If you want to follow the Athletes Hub, you can do so at Athletes Hub and check out their website, which is theathleteshub.org. And if you want to read more baseball stuff instead of consuming podcasts from the Athletes Hub, you can consume podcasts by this guy and read his articles on the many websites he writes for. Many of them.
Yeah, pitcher list is popping off right now with spring training starting up. The website's on full blast right now, pumping out articles like crazy. Just wait till the season starts, though. It's going to be ridiculous. I think I should have an article coming out by the end of the week. Obviously, I got podcasts as well. I got the Independent Podcast, the Bullpen Focused Podcast. That one will come out on Friday as well for this week. And I think we're now in the month where we start going every week. After having gone every other week. And then also we have the First Pitch Podcast will start up once the season starts. But yeah, you can find all of my work at crumplerbaseball.com. And like you said, Jake Crumpler on Twitter. I'm not answering those questions.
I like that one. I think you should put that one up.
If every stadium grew a giant sunflower in center field, would some teams adopt the sunflower shuffle strategy, intentionally hitting balls that land in the flower to confuse outfielders? Why would they call it the sunflower shuffle? And why
have you ever seen the NBA Reddit shit posts?
Or would there be too many squirrels? No, I haven't.
There's a bunch of NBA obviously NBA Reddit shit posts, and there's one and it's like, what would happen if LeBron James and Kyrie Irving on offense, for example, were to just embrace and kiss each other in the middle of the play? So all the other players would be so dumbfounded by what's going on that one of the players would always have an open shot. It's like, it's one of those.
That's fair. That is a fair point.
What if one player per possession got to have a gun and all they could do was shoot it?
These are literally hypotheticals that like go on Effectively Wild all the time. Gus, if you want hypotheticals like that, Effectively Wild is my favorite podcast. They have literally over 2,000 episodes. They've been going for over 10 years. They love hypotheticals like that, and they answer them very, very seriously.
Solid hypotheticals.
Yeah. All right. End the podcast so you can go to bed.
Podcast's over. Go away.